All right, let's take a second to talk about the difference between deadlift, the stiff leg deadlift, and the Romanian deadlift. Why you would choose one over the other, and really, is there a difference? So, a lot of people mostly confuse the Romanian deadlift and the stiff leg deadlift, and oftentimes are viewed as inferior to the regular old, barbell deadlift from the ground. And where they differ is one is going to be in position, two is going to be in the muscles that they activate, or they use the most, and three is going to be in the amount of energy, wear and tear, the overall sort of fatigue that you get from these things. So I'll show you the difference between the three. So first up, we're going to go with the regular old barbell deadlift. So what I'm going to do, set myself up, bar comes in close, arms go long, push the floor away, back down to the ground. That's the standard deadlift. Okay, from there, let's talk about the stiff leg deadlift, which is really the same, except I'm not going to let my hips get down as low. I'm actually going to try to keep my legs as long as possible, as straight as possible, to get a lot more hamstring, a lot more glute, and I'm still going to get some work to the upper and lower back. Okay, so set myself up, arms go long, little bend in the knee, just enough to give myself some leverage, push, come back to the start. Now the stiff leg deadlift, you don't necessarily have to go from the ground. You can set up in the same position, pick it up, and then just go as far as you can keep this lower back fairly neutral. So in other words, we don't want to end up here. We want to keep a fairly flat back throughout the whole thing. Okay, piece number three. Now, I'll show you the stiff leg deadlift if we're going halfway. If that's a stiff leg deadlift, you'll notice that the bar is fairly far away from me in the middle of the rep, whereas a RDL is going to keep the bar as close as possible, and we're going to do one more thing. We're going to exaggerate how much we retract the shoulder. So in the regular deadlift, we let the shoulders come forward. In the RDL, which is really a practice exercise for the Olympic lifts, at least that's where it originates. What we're going to do is we're going to retract the shoulder as much as possible, which means that we're going to keep the elbows out a little bit more, and we're going to focus on mostly the glute and the upper back as far as the emphasis. You still get some hamstring in there, don't worry about that, but when you're choosing which one to select, one over the other, whether you're doing a stiff leg deadlift or you're doing an RDL, it's understanding whether you're looking for more of a lower body emphasis or an upper body emphasis, because the RDL is fantastic for targeting the whole upper back along with the glutes. Okay, that gave me a chance to recover myself. So, I'm actually going to take a bit of a wider grip. It's the same grip that I take when I clean. The feet are also going to be a little different. I'm going to toe up just a tiny bit more. Hook grip. Bar close. Retract those shoulders. Head's tall. And the whole time, this bar stays close. Just to the knee. Every time I'm focusing on that push through the floor to bring my hips to the bar, because then that would naturally transition to getting the bar moving on its path up overhead if I'm doing an Olympic lift. So that's the main differences. Hopefully you see the biggest ones is going to be what we're trying to target, where we're going to set the shoulder. Now as far as the wear and tear, for most of my clients, honestly, they don't deadlift from the floor too often. And the reason why is you can build the deadlift from the floor once you're pretty good at the actual mechanics themselves. So there is a learning curve to actually learn the deadlift, that you have to be good from the ground before you can start stepping away from it. But once that's ironed out and pretty consistent, then the majority of the time you're going to spend your time either with a stiff leg deadlift, a Romanian deadlift, or if you have access to it, something like a trap bar deadlift. There's lots of deadlift variations that we can use to minimize the overall wear on the body, because the deadlift is one of the things that, honestly, it's a mixed result in terms of what we'll get from it. People love the deadlift when they actually get proficient in the deadlift, but the thing is, it's the hardest on the body. From a mechanical standpoint, from a recovery standpoint, it does use a ton of muscle, a ton of energy, but it can be the hardest on you just physically. So I sort of cycle in and out of the program. A lot of times we'll spend our time on things like Romanian deadlifts, which let us practice that good hinge and also build up the upper back and the glutes, which is fairly in common need of work for most people. And we'll spend a little bit of time on the stiff leg deadlift if they're very good at their regular deadlifts. Because the thing about the stiff leg deadlift is, as you can understand, the farther away the bar gets, the more locked in your position needs to be in order not to hurt or destroy that lower back. So hopefully that makes sense. If you find this useful, hit the like button, subscribe, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. All right, bring it.